Just when Hùng thought it was finally over, it wasn't. He had barely found a moment of peace after the last run-in when the gang suddenly showed up again. In front of him lay a cold, calculated agreement with 900 million staring back at him like a knife to the heart. 1 day late, and the only home he shared with his mother and child would be taken, every memory of a lifetime reduced to a bargaining chip in someone else's hands. Hùng trembled, knowing a single signature could lock his future away, but refusing might bring something even worse. No money, no time. Every way out sealed shut. Would he have the courage to fight back or risk everything to protect the last roof over their heads? The answer will keep you holding your breath until the very last second. The sound of a motorbike faded away at the end of the narrow alley. Hùng stepped down, his breathing quick and uneven, like he was racing against his own heartbeat. The cafe was quiet, just a few scattered customers and some worn wooden tables. He pulled out a chair, eyes scanning the room. 2 men slowly stood up from a shadowy corner, their cold stares and heavy steps making the weight of tonight's meeting sink in. Evening? Sorry, I'm a bit late. Hùng said, his voice rough as he tried to keep calm. One of them, with a tight buzz cut, smirked and spoke in a dry, deep tone. Late, but that's fine. We're here to talk about the money your mother owes. You know we can't wait forever. Hùng swallowed hard, his hand tightening around the phone in his pocket. I told you last time, give me more time. It's only been 2 weeks. I really haven't been able to pull the money together yet. The other man slammed his coffee cup onto the table, the sharp crack making the whole place tremble. No, your mother borrowed 900 million zhong, not including interest. You think that's a small amount. If it's not paid on time, this won't stay a polite conversation. Hung's hands shook, but he kept his eyes steady. Let me see the loan papers. I need to know the exact amount and the interest rate. The buzz-cut man pulled a folded stack of papers from his jacket and slid it across the table. Here, read it yourself. We're charging a normal rate 100 million with 2 million interest each month. Not high, but being late, that's another story. The numbers blurred in front of Hung's eyes, like chains tightening around his neck. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay rational. I get it. But we just finished building the house. We really have nothing left. Give me another 2 weeks and I'll work something out. The man with the buzz cut frowned, his eyes sharp as a blade. You think this is a joke? 2 weeks still needs a guarantee. We can't let our money sit dead with you. Your mother's already been taken in. You're the only one we can deal with now. You're responsible. Sweat formed on Hung's forehead as his heartbeat pounded against his chest. He knew one wrong word could send everything spiraling out of control. The leader leaned back, arms crossed. You want more time, we'll listen. But there have to be clear conditions. We don't take empty promises. Both men stared at him, their eyes like sharp needles waiting to pierce through. In that moment, Hùng knew this night wasn't just about money. It was the turning point for his entire family. He swallowed his fear and gave a slight nod. All right, I'll make my proposal. But you should know, I don't have any option left except to negotiate. The 2 men exchanged a quick glance, their eyes flickering under the dim yellow light. A cold, metallic chuckle broke the silence. The negotiation began, and Hùng understood that every word he spoke from here on would be the thin shield standing between him and the abyss ahead. The air inside the cafe felt heavy enough to choke on. Hùng straightened in his chair, fingers locked together under the table, and spoke slowly but clearly. "Give me another 2 weeks. I promise I'll come up with the full amount. But in return, during that time, you stop all pressure. No calls, no showing up at my house, no bothering the neighbors. Just 2 weeks, and I'll pay both the principal and the interest." The leader raised an eyebrow, his black eyes cold as midnight water. "You think it's that easy? This isn't pocket change. We don't just sit around waiting on a few pretty words." A younger guy leaned forward slightly, a flicker of something sharp in his eyes. "You trying to bring the cops into this?" he said, his voice sliding across the table like a knife. Hùng took a deep breath and met their eyes. "I don't want trouble, but I can't be backed into a corner either. We all know if I'm pushed too far, this stops being a private matter. I'm asking for a reasonable amount of time, and I'll back my word with my own honor." Finally, the leader spoke in a low, steady voice. "You want 2 weeks? Fine. But we need something solid, a guarantee. How do we know you'll keep your word?" Hùng lowered his voice, every word weighed carefully. "I'm willing to sign a written acknowledgement of the debt. If I don't pay in 2 weeks, you'll have the right to demand I sell part of my property to settle it. But while we wait, you stick to the deal. No threats, no pressure." One of the men let out a short, half-mocking, half-approving laugh. "Sounds good when you say it. But are you sure 2 weeks is enough? We don't want to hear excuses later." "I'm sure," Hùng answered firmly, eyes locked on the leader. "I've done the math. I'll borrow from friends, sell what I can. I just need 2 weeks to pull it together." The leader leaned back, arms crossed, thinking it over. The yellow light cut sharp shadows across his face before he finally gave a small nod. "All right, we'll consider it. But remember, this is the last time we give an inch. Break your word, and the consequences won't stop at warnings." A bit of the weight in Hung's chest eased, but he didn't dare relax. That nod wasn't trust. It was a trap with a ticking clock. He drew a deep breath, keeping his voice steady. "I understand. I won't let you down. Let's both keep the agreement and stay within the law." The leader's lips curved into a thin, unreadable smile. "Good. Then we draw up the papers tonight. You sign, we sign. 2 weeks. No more, no less." The confirmation felt like a blade pulled from his throat, but still hanging over his head. Hùng nodded, forcing a calm face even as a storm raged inside. The negotiation was over for now. But every glance, every nod from the men across the table told him one thing. The next 2 weeks would be the hardest of his life. The leader motioned for his man to pull a stack of papers from the bag. A contract was spread neatly across the worn wooden table, the fresh smell of ink mixing with the strong scent of coffee creating a heavy mix that made Hung's throat tighten. The man handed him a pen, his cold eyes adding to the weight of the invisible pressure. "This is the agreement," the leader said, his voice slow but sharp as a blade. Hùng stayed silent. His heartbeat pounded like a hammer in his chest. He thought of his mother, sitting in a detention cell the house recently built, and still under bank debt, the neighbors laughing outside with no idea of the dark pit behind all of this. One signature could buy a bit of peace, but it could also lock down his entire future. Finally, he lowered the pen. His handwriting trembled, but stayed firm, each stroke cutting into his chest like a silent wound. The leader gave a slight nod. His man carefully folded the contract and slid it back into the bag. Good. You've shown you know how to think. Remember, this isn't a game. 2 weeks. Principal and interest. If not, you know what happens. Hùng lifted his eyes filled with determination and helplessness all at once. I'll keep my word, but you keep yours too. No extra demands. The leader gave a thin smile, barely more than a thread, and nodded once. The negotiation was over. But the fear clung to Hùng like a shadow. The sound of their motorbikes faded into the night, leaving him alone on the dark street, eyes fixed on the black sky above. The contract, now hidden in their bag, felt like an invisible chain, tightening around every breath he took. He wondered if he had done the right thing, or made a mistake he could never undo. Signing that paper bought him a little time, but it also handed his future to criminals. Questions hammered inside his mind. Can I really raise that kind of money? If I fail, what will happen to my mother, who will end up owning the house? Outside, the rain grew heavier, wind howling as if to remind him that time was slipping away. Hùng clenched his fists and took a deep breath. Fear was there, but he knew the only way forward was to keep moving, no matter how dark the road ahead might be.